Are you ready to do this, Matt?
Yes, sir. Punch it, Chewy.
Welcome, super friends, to the Fortress of Nerditude podcast, a safe place to talk about all things in nerd and pop culture. I'm Spencer Stapleton, and my co-pilot is Matt Shaw. We're two nerds that just refuse to grow up. Thank you for joining us. This is episode 213. We release every Thursday morning. You can find us on the website, fortofnerd.com. We have links to Google Music, iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, YouTube, and everywhere podcasts are available. Stop by and relax a while. If you like what you're hearing, hit that subscribe button and get us automatically each and every week in your ear holes. Matt, I just got to say this one thing before we get going. Merry Christmas, Bedford Falls! Merry Christmas, Emporium! Merry Christmas, you all building and loan! Merry freaking Christmas, Matt! It is the Christmas episode. How are you?
I'm good. Merry Christmas to you
Merry
as
Christmas.
well.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. What a great time of year.
Yes.
Much needed in a year of years.
It does feel like a year of years. Yes, it does.
Yeah, it's been that. It's been that. So we're glad to be where we are, closing in on the end of it.
Yes, this will be our Christmas episode, and then the following week will be our 2020 retrospective look back at the year that probably most people don't want to look back at, and also a little bit of a look ahead at 2021.
Yeah, it's a lot of good stuff.
Yeah.
For as crappy of a year as it was, this is a pretty good year for other stuff. So anyway,
but this
that's
week,
the teaser. It was a pretty good year for other stuff. Listen next week to find out what was pretty good.
But this week is Christmas, man. It's the week of Christmas.
It is.
When the podcast release, it'll actually be Christmas Eve.
Yes, and I'm sure that everyone's listening to it on Christmas Eve.
Sure, yeah.
As they're preparing for Santa Claus to visit their homes and apartments and shanties and wherever else they may be.
Villages, shacks.
Why not?
Cardboard boxes underneath overpasses, wherever.
Released everyone. Everyone. So welcome. But yeah, man, it's been a week. Lots of just of the Christmas stuff. Christmas. Yeah. We've done all the big stuff.
Okay.
It's mostly Jessie went to Target by herself to get stocking stuff for me and the kids, and then I went and we kind of traded, surprise things.
Sure. Sure.
And the shopping of foods, we had got to make the meal plan for this week.
Yep.
Of Christmasness and what we do as a family and what kind of traditions we want to have, because we're not having any family come in and we're not going anywhere.
Sad.
So it's just, I know it is sad. It's been hard, but it's okay.
Yeah.
So it's just me, Jesse, Emmy, and Lando this year. And so we're kind of able to create our own traditions and do our own thing, and it's kind of fun. So
the offer is always on the table. I will say it again just in case you need to hear it one more time. There's always a place for you at the Casa del Stapleton. You are more than welcome. If you can find your way here, you have a place to stay.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. We appreciate that.
And that's not just Christmas. That's all times. I'm just saying.
Anytime. We appreciate it, really. Yeah, we know. We know we're welcoming you guys.
But
that you're always welcome.
If you come during harvest season, I may have to put you to work, though.
Oh, okay.
We got to get out in them fields. Yeah.
Brutal work without my shirt on. It's like one of the top fives. Goodness. Speaking of work, it's been a little bit, with Amazon, it's tricky so what I do for work, if you haven't listened to the podcast in a while, I don't really talk about it very much. I help people sell on Amazon.
Yep.
So Amazon doesn't typically sell the products that you're buying. It's a different seller that's selling the product through Amazon.
Right.
So I help those sellers with their titles and bullet points and SEO and all that jazz. Anyway, so this time of year is a little bit stressful, particularly this week leading up to Christmas, because the expectation is that all of their things that they've ordered, regardless of when they ordered it, will be delivered by Christmas. And
Right.
that's just not the reality, right?
No.
Every year I represent these companies on Amazon, so I'm ruining Christmas, even though there's literally nothing I can do. I'm not packing the product, I'm not shipping the product, I'm not even taking the orders. That's all automated.
Sure.
However, I get to deal with, especially this week in the last few days, it's just people being frustrated that their packages are delayed and FedEx isn't doing it right and their thing got damaged. I'm like, okay, I'm really sorry. I hope your kid's Christmas isn't actually ruined because it didn't get there on time, but
This is the part
so
of me, Matt, where like I kind of look at this, and I work in IT, so this a little bit of the same thing where sometimes people's poor planning causes an emergency, but that doesn't necessarily mean like it's an emergency on your part, right?
right.
Because you can't do anything for them, and their lack of planning brought them to this precipitous moment where they can't do the thing, they can't get it done. And so expecting you to work a miracle, I mean, that's a little unrealistic.
Right. So I get it. People's tensions are high as it
Sure,
pertains to
yeah.
their children and their Christmas mornings. And so I get it. And sometimes it is the fault of the company I represent that they are late on their shipment, or they're slow to build, because a lot of my clients actually build and manufacture the product. And with COVID and supply chains being disrupted, it's been harder to get products and parts. So anyway,
Yeah.
that's been kind of what I've been dealing with for the most part. It's okay.
Mm.
I'll survive. But
Well,
outside of
I,
that,
I'll have you know, Matt, you did a great job for me and Brita and the kids, because all of our Amazon packages that we ordered
oh,
through you this year, because all of them went through you. I know they did. They all got here when they said they were going to. We
oh,
ordered in
good.
advance. You were magnificent.
I
Thank you.
know. I'm
Thank you.
amazing. Thank you. Thank you for that. Appreciate it. Anyway, enough of the BSing.
You know what? No, I'm being serious. I mean, I'm okay. I know it didn't go through you, but I'm serious. Like sometimes though, you just need to hear that, especially if you've been having, let's say, a
yeah,
more stressful day.
yeah. It's been that. So I'm glad to be on the podcast right now. I'll tell you
Yeah,
that. I need a little bit of fun.
and we got stuff to talk
But
about.
yeah, I mean, other than that, it's just Christmas stuff. It's making Christmas cookies. It's
Mm.
watching Christmas movies, Christmas TV
Hold
shows.
on, stop. You said Christmas cookies, and you just blew past that. What are you guys making?
We've got the peanut butter ones with the little kissies on top.
Ooh,
We got the
yes,
holly bushes. We got the
yes,
spritz.
yes.
We got the sugar cookies.
Mm-hmm.
We got chocolate cookies with Andy's mints.
Ooh.
And I think that's it.
You know, right now
Question
you
mark?
made all of the Super Friends hungry, and I love that.
Yes, that's what I'm here for. So there's that.
Okay.
Uh, so all that stuff, obviously, Mandalorian
Yep.
is a big part of our lives.
Sure. Sure.
And this week was no exception. Shout out to the Sidekick podcast, the last one for
A
quite a
while.
while.
Well,
A
maybe.
year. Yeah, we'll have to talk and see what we want to do. But
Yep.
um, and then it's just I will say, okay, so Animal Crossing, I jumped back into that just with all the
Ooh.
Christmas stuff going on in there, and that's been
Yeah.
fun. It's been harder to get in there more consistently just because there's like so much else happening
Sure. Sure.
that during Halloween it was like a priority. There's not a lot of build up and things you have to
Christmas is
do
a
for Halloween.
busier holiday than Halloween.
Yeah, Christmas is like
Yeah.
a thing. So it's been it's been quite busy, but I was able to get all my quite a bit of the holiday decor up in my little Christmas town. They need to do a better job of giving us more time next year. That's what I'll say.
Yeah.
December 15th is not enough time
No.
to enjoy the Christmas
That's
season.
why I started time traveling like a
Yeah.
while back. I've got most of the ice stuff. I think I've got like maybe 2 or 3 DIYs left. And then there's a bunch of other DIYs I don't think we can get till Christmas Eve.
Right. So save it for next year, I guess.
Yeah.
And then just we got HBO Max free for 30 days when I got Cyberpunk. It came with it.
Uh-huh.
So we signed up for that. There's actually quite a bit on there that we want to watch, movies and shows and things, but mostly we got it for Wonder Woman on
Right.
Christmas, so we're all locked and loaded on that. And then I did jump in just like you did last week. I jumped into the Clone Wars
Ooh.
and
And
watched like 2 episodes and then the movie. So I'm like a
okay.
quarter of the way through the movie. So I watched the first 2 episodes in the chronological order, something from
Huh.
season 2, something from season 1,
Right.
and then jumping into the Clone Wars movie. And yeah, it's good.
It is good.
It's good. It's just different
Yep.
than what I'm used to, and that's not bad. It's just something I have to
I
adjust to.
I thought
Even
the same
so,
thing too because I'm almost done with season 1 of the Clone Wars.
hmm
And it is different because first of all, like you're dropped right back into an active war scene. And
yeah,
so like Star Wars Rebels and some of the other stuff, it's not an active war going on. And
right,
so they can do other things, and this is like boom, like action, this and that.
yeah,
And then, it's taken me a little while to kind of warm up to it, but I'm really liking it so far.
good
So
to hear.
I'm excited that you're watching it so we can start talking about this more regularly.
Yeah. I wanna. I mean, I'm just interested in learning more about Ahsoka Tano, especially since we're getting a show. So I thought
Yep.
that this was kind of the best way to fully understand. I mean, I've read it and I know it, but I
Mm-hmm.
haven't fully experienced it. So this will give me that opportunity. But I mean, that's it.
Okay.
That's been my week, just hanging out, shopping, and being with the family.
So my week has been pretty good. Also, it's
Good.
been pretty good because today was my first day of like true vacation. I'm
Nice.
taking this week, Monday when we record is my first day off, but obviously I'm taking off through like January 4th is when I go back to
Okay.
work.
Nice.
So I'm pretty excited about that. Uh, we got a super friend that hooked me up. He sent me a code off of his copy of Cyberpunk 2077 for HBO Max because he already has HBO Max. So sure now, shout out
Nice.
to Bernabe who
Burnaby.
B Mares on Twitter who sent me the thing. He says I don't need this. I already have it. He's like I'll give it to you. That way you can see Wonder Woman. And then he just dug that knife in there. And goes and maybe you can watch some of that old Death Note or the Japanese
Some
anime. And
some anime show.
I was like,
Yeah.
wow. Because like it's gonna be a lot harder to be like, hey, now I've got it in another place, and I'm still not
Still not going
watching
to.
it.
Right.
But
I
anyway,
hear you. I hear you.
so so we haven't activated our 30-day trial. We're probably going to here in the next day or two would be my guess because I do want to
Right.
watch Wonder Woman 84. But I think just with how busy we may be on Christmas Day, I'm pretty sure we're going to watch Soul as a family.
Right.
And so maybe Wonder Woman in the evening or maybe like a day or two later. I'm not exactly sure.
hmm
Let's see. I talked about the Clone Wars. I'm watching the Clone Wars. We have also started baking of the Christmas cookies. We've made spritz. Brita made fudge. I've made up the dough for the molasses crinkles. Those will get made tomorrow. Holly bushes, I think, are going to get made tomorrow. And then I'm going to do lemon bars.
Okay.
And I feel like there's something else. And then some family's going to be around, so they're going to bring in some cookies. And so we're going to have plenty. Oh, spritz. Brita already made spritz as well. So
Yes, that was the first cookie you said.
did
Double
I? Double
spritz.
spritz. Doubles, triple spritz, all the spritz. Yeah,
All the spritz, man.
she's got that on lockdown. Let's see what else. Oh, today, today. Jackson had to go to the dentist. So
Oh,
his teeth, he's got this like loose tooth that's it's like a baby tooth and it needs to come out. Except because of the way the other teeth are growing in, it's kind of like sandwiched in and it can't be removed.
okay.
So so the dentist had to pull it out. Um,
Yeah.
And on top of that, though, the dentist was like, look, we want to pull these two canine teeth out as well. They usually fall out around age 9, but this is pretty common to pull them out to give more room. Because I love my boy, and he's got the cutest smile, and he's the cutest little face. But his teeth are coming in really crooked. He's going to need braces one day for sure.
Yeah.
He looks
Yeah.
like he's been gnawing on a grenade. And I love the kid, but like, yee, like
Yeah.
the dental work he's gonna have to go through. So they said we're gonna pull these two teeth to give some more space, and I was like, okay. So we got the dental box back, and because they give you the teeth, so he can put it under and do the
Sure.
the tooth fairy stuff. The one tooth that was supposed to come out looks like what a tooth looks like when you pull it out, where like most of it's eroded and gone. The other two teeth, oh my goodness, the roots are like long, like it was almost like an inch long. I was like,
Oh my gosh.
wow. It's like wow. So
Weird.
yeah, but the funny thing is that Brita really did not want to go to the dentist with him today. She wanted me to go because he's gonna. I mean, he could do this under just like normal numbing or whatever,
Hmm.
but he's 6 and
That's
he
not
gets
gonna
kind of
work.
panicky around
Sure.
new people sometimes, and doctors and dentists that are going to be working on him more so.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the last time he had something like this done, they had to knock him out, and he got like a drink or something, and like it basically like he started slowing down, and then just like was like paralyzed, and they like picked him up out of Brita's arms, and then
Uh-huh.
took him back, and Brita was so distraught, so like
Oh, okay.
emotionally tore up about seeing her boy like talk and then slow down and just like stop mid sentence with his eyes open and just like
Yeah.
freeze
Yeah. Yeah.
that
Yeah.
she just couldn't handle it. So today
Okay.
she said that like they gave him a little toy to distract him. They gave him a shot, and she said he was playing with the toy and he started slowing down and he was watching also his TV and he says, "Mom, there's two TVs." And then like that was like the last thing he said, and I was like, "Well, did he like freeze in place?" She's like, "No, but he just kind of slowed down and he said there was two TVs." And then got quiet and then just stopped moving, and they lifted him up and they took him out, and she's like, it's so hard to watch, and she's like,
Oh,
and she's like distraught. And then she said that when he woke up, they're trying to get it like they take the IV out, they get him off the thing,
mhm.
they lay him down on a bean bag, and he starts to kind of wake up a little bit, and he was just rolling around. They're like, just lay down. He's like trying to sit up, but he was getting dizzy and flopping back over, and so they were trying to give him a thing, and he said, "Mom, I see two moms." And so like he was still seeing like double vision, and she brought him home, and she was like struggling to get him in through the door because he was walking, but like his legs were jello and he was like flopping
Yeah.
from side to side, and so
Yeah.
she's having to like hold on to him on like his jacket like she's Pinocchio to like help steer
Oh man.
every little step he was taking. And
Yeah.
she called down to me. She says, "Spence, can you come up and get him?" I'm like, "Sure." And Jackson went to like lean towards me, and like I think he thought he took a step, and he just started falling over, and I had to grab him real fast, and I tossed him on my shoulder like a sack of potatoes,
Yeah.
and then he was like he was trying to like stand up and walk around before he was really ready, and so he
Mm,
was really dizzy, and he just kept like falling over, and
yeah.
then like an hour later. He comes walking into me and he looks fine and he's still kind of jumping around and he looks normal, and
Right. Right.
he's standing on our hardwood floor in his socks, and then like he goes to take a step, and I don't know if he misjudged it or whatever, but his socks like just slipped out from underneath him, and fell and
Oh.
smacked his forehead on the hardwood floor, and,
Oh.
and then I was like, "Are you okay?" And he's like, "Yeah, yeah, uh-huh."
Oh
And he's like trying to hold it in, and then pretty soon he starts crying, and so now he's like laying back down on the couch again, and he's
yeah.
got an ice pack on his head, and he's taking medicine to like, keep his mouth from hurting. I'm just like, this kid, this like
Yeah.
we like this would be the worst possible time to take him to like school or church or in anywhere in
Sure.
public, because it would look like we just been beating him.
Yeah. Yeah.
The
Yeah.
poor
Yeah. Yeah.
kid. I mean, he had a he
Oh
had a
my
rough
goodness.
day, but the funny thing is that kid is just he can stay in such good spirits through it all. He was just laughing. He's like, "Look, Dad, I can't feel my face. Come touch." And so I'm like, touch his cheek. "Can you feel this?" "Yep." "Can you feel this?" "Nope." "Nope." nope, yep. And he was so excited, like he could feel it again. Anyway, uh, it's one of those things where, like, as an adult, you've been through this. You've
Yeah.
had dental work done. You know what to expect. But as a kid, I mean, gosh, I think he was just having a field day with, like,
Yeah,
being
yeah.
woozy, not standing and whatnot. So it was kind of a fun day around our household today.
Nice.
Other than that, man, like, gosh, that's just kind of my week.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to this Christmas, Matt. And I gotta
Hmm.
say, even though it's Christmas, we still have to kill Bothans. I'm
Yeah.
sorry, like,
Yeah.
I know we should have a better Christmas holiday spirit, but we got to do it.
We got to do it.
I always have to let you know, many Bothans died to bring us this information.
Rest in peace, you Bothans.
All right, Matt. We are into Rebel Intelligence. What do
Yeah.
you have for me this week?
All right. Well, first, let's talk science fiction.
Okay.
Let's talk Millie Bobby Brown,
Ooh.
but not talk Stranger Things.
Interesting.
So, Millie Bobby Brown is going to be in a new science fiction directed by Anthony and Joe Russo, the Russo brothers.
Ooh, really?
It's an adaptation of a graphic novel of the name The Electric State.
Okay.
I've never heard of it, but
Hmm.
we don't know exactly who else is going to be in it. We don't know when it's going to come out. We do have confirmation, though. Funny enough, this is the age we live in, where it will be a theatrical release. So there's that.
So that says
Um,
to me a couple years down the road.
yeah, well, yeah, definitely has to be. So it says it's set in an alternate version of the future where robots and humans coexist. It stars a teenage girl who embarks on a journey with a mysterious robot who has ties to her missing brother and a larger sinister conspiracy with far reaching consequences. So, Millie Bobby acting next to a robot, I think, is what we're going to get with this. I mean, among a bunch of other robots and other
Sure. Yeah,
villains,
yeah, yeah.
but the main crux of the story is she and her robot buddy, directed by the Russos. So look for that in
I
2020, some 2020
sometime before
three,
2030.
4, 5, 6. Who
I
knows? Millie Bobby Brown might not be a
I
teenager.
I like Millie Bobby Brown. I saw that in Enola Holmes on Netflix, and
Oh, you did?
I thought that was pretty decent.
Okay.
I will say that, like, I she's done some things, and I think she's branching out. I think if there's any one of, like, the kids from Stranger Things that has the chance to, like, really break out and do other things, I think it's her. I'm kind of like thinking of, like, the kids that all did the Harry Potter movies,
Right.
and
It's Emma
and
Watson.
and it was Emma Watson that was kind of the one that really
Yeah.
went on to, like, have a larger career and do other things. I think Millie Bobby Brown is the kid from the Stranger Things show that has the most likelihood of having a larger career outside of Stranger Things.
Yep. I agree. And she's already doing stuff. I mean, she's been in Godzilla, and
And
now she's in
Nola
Enola Holmes, and now
Holmes,
she's about to be in this Russo brothers movie. So I'd say uh, she's broken free of Stranger Things,
even though she's gonna, come back
even
and
though
do a
she's
fourth
still
season.
in it.
Right, yeah. Matt, I actually have something that's Stranger Things related.
Ooh, tell me
So
more.
so interesting enough, Stranger Things, we know and love this show, right? It's the Netflix
Yeah. Oh,
show,
yeah.
and it really helped bring back Dungeons and Dragons to kind of like the forefront of
Okay.
of kind of like the nerd zeitgeist, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
they play the game inside of the show, and let's be honest, if we're looking at this show, it's literally like watching a campaign of Dungeons and Dragons.
Sure.
So the kids from Dungeons and Dragons, or at least a few of them, with the help of Netflix, has shared a 2-hour Dungeons and Dragons actual playthrough, starring. Let's see here, starring We've got David Harbour, who's playing the human sorcerer Kenny Kaboom. Finn Wolfhard as a half elf paladin, Sylvester the Wise. Gatton Matarazzo as the half elf Meryl Streep. And first time D&D player Natalie Dyer as the high elf rogue Jinx. And so what they're doing is Netflix partnered up with Wizards of the Coast, which actually is the owner of Dungeons and Dragons, and they played a tabletop version of this one shot called Lost Odyssey Toy Time for 10 Towns. So it's kind of like a holiday themed Dungeons and Dragons campaign. And a one shot means you sit down and in one session you can play through the whole thing. And I watched only maybe about the first 5 minutes of this thing, and it looks fun. I'm going to go back and I'm going to watch the whole thing because I like Dungeons and Dragons. I really like the idea of, collaborative storytelling and playing together and trying to find your ways to like work through this and that. And then on top of that, you got some of the kids from Stranger Things and the sheriff, David Harbour, Hellboy himself. I mean, that's a cool thing. So I like that.
Ask you this. Are we past as a culture now? Are we past phoning it in via Zoom? Like, are we getting them in the same room playing this, or is this another...
This is Zoom.
Well,
I mean, come on. They filmed this in 2020 so they could release it around the holiday time. So there's no way that they got together.
They were making the show. They could do it. Anyway,
I'm just
okay.
Telling you what I saw.
I just don't enjoy the content as much, obviously, and I think everyone that.
Yeah. I get that, but if you like Dungeons and Dragons, or if you've been introduced to Dungeons and Dragons because of Stranger Things, or you just like Stranger Things, I think you should go watch this for 2 hours. It's on YouTube already. It'll be a fun time.
Nice. Or you like Zoom.
Or you like Zoom. Yep, that's my elevator pitch for this show. Hey, do you like Zoom? You'll love our Stranger Things Dungeons and Dragons actual playthrough.
It's like we're there, but we're not.
Powered by Zoom. Okay.
Golly. Oh, man, let me tell you something else from 2020 that's really caused a lot of waves recently.
Yep.
Cyberpunk 2077.
Ooh, yes.
7 years in the making, 8 years in the making since they first showed the little teaser trailer.
Yep.
And at the end of the teaser, it says, coming when it's ready. It came, and it wasn't ready.
No, it was not.
And if you follow video games, you know about this game. Certainly. If you follow video games, you all know that it has had a very rough release, particularly on lower end PCs and console.
The base like PS4 and Xbox One, right?
Right. I mean, really on all console, it hasn't performed as well as they made it out to.
Yeah.
And there's been a lot of glitches, problems. Frame rate it's unplayable on last gen, is what most people say. It's just unplayable. So in a crazy move, CD Projekt Red, who developed the game, has removed it from the PlayStation Store and is offering refunds to those who have purchased this game.
So, actually, let me clarify this. Sony Interactive Entertainment removed it from the PlayStation Store, but they talked with CD Projekt Red and let them know that it was going to happen and that they made the decision together.
Okay.
Sorry, I know that seems like it's splitting hairs.
No, I didn't know that.
But that's important to know only because the Sony console was like the PlayStation console was having, like, especially like the older gen, the original PS4s were having problems, and I think that there was some instances where like people were trying to play it and it was like breaking consoles. So that's why Sony Interactive was like, we gotta pull this thing.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Did not Did not know that.
Yeah.
So, long story short, you can still buy it. You have to get it
Physical.
physical for PlayStation at least. And yeah, basically we'll see. But it's a bad look. It's a bad day. It's a bad time for CD Projekt Red,
Let me ask you a question.
which was a trusted developer for a long
You've
time.
you've got the game and you got it on PS5, I'm assuming?
Yeah, it's fine.
Nope. And have you had any like
Yes, I've
major
had
problems? Okay.
Yeah, it quit on me once. It just shut down. And then it rebooted and I picked up right where it left off. But I've
Mm-hmm.
not experienced frame dips. I've not experienced extreme pop in. Um, just regular stuff that you would find in complex video games. I'll tell you,
Sure.
it's nothing worse so far than what I saw in Jedi Fallen.
Okay.
But again, that's running on next gen hardware.
Right.
If you're running on anything less than Xbox Series X or PS5, that's tough. That's tough.
I have a hard time with this like whole news article and all the stuff that's been going on because obviously CD Projekt Red did The Witcher 3 and that was a well-loved game. They earned themselves a lot of street cred in the video game space. But
Right.
they came out with this game and from what it sounds like it wasn't ready. Especially not to be able to play on the release OG PS4 and Xbox One. So here's my question, Matt. Do you continue to push the release date so you can fix all the bugs and get the things patched? Because if you're spanning a generation like they really are,
Mm-hmm.
do you need to make it work on both or do you just push it out knowing that it could cause some major problems and just keep your fingers crossed and hope that it doesn't? Where do you stand on the, just get it out versus let's delay it again to get it right?
Well, they didn't delay it long enough, clearly.
No, no.
I mean, they already delayed it a few times. They didn't do it right. And look, I mean, I get it. You want to get the game out because it's been 8 years.
Yeah.
And it was supposed to come out earlier this year. And then it was supposed to come out in November or at an earlier time in October. And then it was supposed to
Right.
come out in November. And so now we're on its third release date. And that's just, that should make anyone nervous.
Yeah.
And when I look at games that have been pushed, they usually come out well in my experience because they want to get it right. I'm just shocked that they put this game out on console. That's what I'll say.
Mm.
With all the, I mean, you look at The Last of Us Part 2, delayed, came out, ran beautifully, looked amazing, was perfect. I look at Animal Crossing New Horizons, delayed.
Yep.
Came out, perfect timing, everything worked well, no glitches, no problems. I look at games that kind of straddled generations. Breath of the Wild ran great on both systems. If you're going to do that, you have to make a game that runs great on both systems. They effed it up. That's all.
Yeah. It's unfortunate. I mean, I know they made a lot of money. I know they made a lot of money on the PC side of things. I heard that they made all their money from development and marketing costs back on the PC side alone. So like,
right.
I know that they made money. It's just unfortunate because I think it was, I don't have the quote right by Miyamoto, but basically it's that here's the thing. At the end of the day, people are going to remember that this launch of this game, after all the delays, after so long, was messed up so bad and the game was so rough that Sony pulled it from its digital store. People are gonna remember people going back to the stores. I mean, I saw something like Best Buy or Walmart was allowing people to come back and bring opened copies of the game back and give them full refunds.
Yeah.
People are gonna remember that. If it had been delayed another year and it came out and it was perfect and ran perfect, people would say, yeah, it got delayed a few times, but when it came out, it was amazing.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, like the bad memory, it's gonna stick with you a lot longer than a small bump in the road will be delayed again. Sadly.
Right.
So
Or just delay the console. If you have to delay the console, delay the console.
something, right?
It's bad. Really bad for CD Projekt Red. Really, really bad, especially 8 years of development. That's inexcusable.
Yeah. Matt, I'm gonna move on, and it's not something like wonderful to talk about, unfortunately. Um, this name might not be super recognizable um, to a lot of people, but to some of the heavy, like deep, nerds like myself and you, the name Jeremy Bulloch means something because this was the man that played Boba Fett. He played Boba Fett in The Empire Strikes Back and in Return of the Jedi, and he died this week at the age of 75. And he retired from conventions in 2018. So it was about 2 years ago. He kind of stopped going around to the conventions and doing some of that stuff. He'd also was the assistant to Q, the character Q in some of the early James Bond films. And he also played an Imperial officer in The Empire Strikes Back by the name of Lieutenant Shekel. He was the guy that's holding Princess Leia when she's trying to like escape and she's trying to yell at Luke and she's like, "It's a trap! Luke, yeah. It's a trap!" That was him. He actually got to have his face seen nice. in the film. He passed away. Most people, it's kind of similar to David Prowse, who was the man underneath the Darth Vader costume. Yeah. Or what's his name? I'm blanking it now. The actor that was in the Chewbacca, Peter Mayhew, that was in the Chewbacca costume, right? Same thing with Jeremy Bulloch here, who was Boba Fett. He was in costume. His voice wasn't the actual voice that was used in the movie. His dialogue lines were recorded originally by someone named Jason Wingreen, and so that's the voice you heard all the way up until when the prequels came out, and then Temuera Morrison became Jango, and then Boba Fett. Then for the special editions that were done after the prequels, they re-recorded those dialogues in Temuera Morrison's voice.
Right.
But Jeremy Bulloch has passed away. He was beloved by the actors that starred in the original trilogy with him, his family. There was a lot of wonderful, great, eulogies given by his fellow co-stars. But the original Boba Fett has now sadly passed away.
It is sad.
Yep.
That's sad. Lots of Star Wars, or a couple Star Wars actors have passed recently.
Especially from the original trilogy. I mean, we're
losing people.
We're 40 years past, past the first movies. So I mean, sadly, we're gonna start seeing more and more of that.
Yeah. Well, no smooth segue here. Let's skip over to Netflix.
Okay.
On Netflix, they are slowly rolling out a new feature that allows you to listen to shows without your screen on.
Really?
Audio only.
Audio only.
So that's for people, you want to listen to it like it's a podcast, or you're like me and you fall asleep to TV shows. You don't want to have your screen on if you can help it. And they are releasing audio only shows so that I can put on a show, lock the screen, and go to bed. So there are obviously many types of people where this is important. If you're in a situation where battery life is important, you can just listen to the show. Obviously, some shows you're gonna want to see.
Okay.
I imagine you don't want to, watch a baking show without being able to see.
Right.
Kind of kills.
Here's how we do this procedure. Like, wait, no, I gotta unlock my thing, and yeah, no, that's not gonna work. That's not gonna work.
Presentation. Anyway, um, but there's a couple of situations where I feel like this could be handy and helpful. My situation being one of them. But battery power, I think, being another one. So anyway, audio only coming
Okay.
to a show near you.
I could see that being really like a popular feature if, like, I don't know, maybe let's say you're in the kitchen and baking Christmas cookies. I'm thinking that now because this is the Christmas episode and we're doing a lot of Christmas cookie
Yeah.
baking. But imagine you're baking Christmas cookies and like you can't really watch something because the TV is in another room and you don't have a TV there, and you want to like listen to a comedy show you've heard before. So like Parks and Rec, The Office, How I Met Your Mother, something along those lines where maybe there's not a ton of visual gags in the show and it's really witty dialogue or it's really snappy, upbeat, whatever. I could see that like that would kind of make sense. I don't know, maybe you don't remember these days, but I remember like I used to drive around in the car with my mom and my dad when I was a kid, and sometimes like they could tune to a radio station and they could find a radio station that was like broadcasting what was on like a television channel, and so you could actually just like listen to an episode of Cheers. You couldn't see it, but you could listen to it over the radio. So like I could imagine this kind of setting be like, hey, we're gonna listen to Cheers, turn it on, it's in the corner while we're baking cookies.
Yeah.
I mean, I like the idea in theory. I could see some uses of it, but if I'm being perfectly honest, Matt, this probably isn't a feature that I would use a ton. I mean, if I'm going to be a place where like I really can't watch something and I'm just going to listen, I'm going to turn on a podcast, I'm going to turn on an audiobook, I'm going to turn on music.
Yep, I don't disagree.
But
there's people like me who would use it.
Right. And I do think that it's at least a good step towards developing different tech to take advantage of different situations and scenarios. Because here's the other thing. What about people that are blind?
Right.
Like
don't need the screen.
Don't need the screen. I mean, it's just kind of a waste. Yeah. So I mean, there's definitely avenues that I could see this makes sense in.
Right.
Okay, Matt. I had bad news. Now I've got good news. Now I'm gonna bring the thunder, Matt. I'm bringing the heat in the good department. Okay.
Okay.
So what I'm about to say could be looked at as a spoiler for the end of the Mandalorian, except this is news. This is in the news. This was Jon Favreau. And this isn't actually going to give away anything of the show. So Jon Favreau this morning, if you're listening to the audio podcast Monday morning, he went on Good Morning America. And he wanted to clarify something that had happened after the credits of this second season of The Mandalorian. So at the end of the credits of The Mandalorian, we get a post-credit scene where we see Boba Fett come back into Jabba the Hutt's palace on Tatooine, and we also see Fennec Shand, the Imperial sharpshooter, go through and kill everyone. Bib Fortuna's now sitting on Jabba's throne. Armando in Boba Fett just blows him away, dumps his body off, sits on the thing, and then it says, the Book of Boba Fett, December 2021. And then it ends. And you and I had this whole conversation on our Sidekick podcast about this. What does it mean? Is this a different series? Is this the next part of The Mandalorian and now it's going to flip over and follow Boba Fett? Here's the thing. If you looked at the internet in the last few days, it's been split 50-50 on what that meant.
Yeah.
Jon Favreau came out and he wanted to clarify that. So he went on Good Morning America and he said, "We didn't want to spoil the surprise during the big Kathleen Kennedy announcement of all the shows during the Investor Day," right? He says, "So they let me keep this one secret." He says, This is actually a separate from The Mandalorian Season 3. But what we didn't say in the announcement was when Kathy said, the next chapter, because she did say something like, we have more coming up in the next chapter, which was a reference to the Book of Boba Fett. And that we know that right now, actually, the Book of Boba Fett is actually in production. And once the Book of Boba Fett is done production, then they're going to go right over into The Mandalorian Season 3. So what this means is that besides the Cassian Andor show, the Ahsoka Tano show, the Lando standalone, the Obi-Wan standalone, Season 3 of The Mandalorian, the
New Republic.
The New Republic show, Rangers of the New Republic, we're also getting a Boba Fett series. And I gotta say that even though Jeremy Bulloch passed away, the original actor, having Temuera Morrison in there and knowing that we got Boba Fett still lives on. Boba Fett was resurrected in the canon and brought in this season, and now we know that there's a separate series. My excitement level has jumped way up for this.
Yes.
When I thought that it could be a replacement to The Mandalorian, I was actually kind of sad. I was worried. I was nervous.
I hear you. Again, if you listen to the Sidekick podcast, you'll get our feelings.
Right.
I never thought for a moment that this was in replacement until I went to the internet. And everyone over there seems so sure. And I was like, I hate you.
Yep.
There's no way that could be. So I'm glad that he went on there and confirmed it. I'm sad we're not getting The Mandalorian for a little bit longer. He's basically, he said, you're going to get in December 2021, you're going to get the Boba Fett series. And he says, and shortly thereafter,
right,
you're going to get. So it's not like we're going to wait, till December 2022. I think it's going
to. No.
I think in 2022 is when we start hitting the Marvel stride as far as Star Wars is concerned, where every few months you're getting a new Star Wars show. And
I think you're right.
Mandalorian Season 3 fits right in there. So
yeah, from what it looked like, we're gonna have a lot of Marvel in 2021, and I think we're gonna have a lot of Star Wars in 2022. I hope that spreads out a little bit, so like it's not just like all Marvel one year and then all Star Wars the next year, then all Marvel the following year. Like I hope they intersperse that some, but I just gotta say, I'm excited for the Book of Boba Fett. I'm excited to know that it's a separate series altogether. It brings out the little kid in me, man. It takes me back to a time and seeing Boba Fett just destroy and kick this last season of Mandalorian. Ooh, like bring on him as the new crime syndicate leader. I mean, whatever it's going to be, we don't know, but we do know it is a separate thing.
Love it.
So good. So good.
Love it. So, is that all you have?
That's the last thing I had. Do you have anything else?
I've got one more.
Okay.
Saving the best for not the best. The best is the Boba Fett thing. The second best thing.
Okay.
For me, and this is a call to all of you out there who have not yet listened to this, regardless of my continual plea to watch this show. Lock and Key.
Yikes.
Has been renewed for a third season before the second season is even finished with production. So there's something there that they really liked. And again, Lock and Key came out, I think it was February of this last year.
Was it February this year? Was it February of... No, let's say it can't be February of 2019.
No, it wasn't. I'm trying to remember when. Long story short, it was about a year ago ish. One of my favorite shows that Netflix has put out. And I was so happy when season 2 was renewed. And now I'm obviously surprised and stoked to see that season 3 has been given the green light before season 2 airs. So we're getting at least 3 seasons of Lock and Key.
Okay.
So if that's not an endorsement for the show, I don't know what to tell you. I mean,
it's on my list. It's on my list. I did want to see it initially, and I think I still do. It's just now like I'm into the middle of like the Clone Wars and like,
right.
That's, I'm in the Star Wars glow right now, that afterglow of season 2 Mandalorian and Dave Filoni love, and Clone Wars, and I'm now thinking like, man, maybe after Clone Wars, maybe I rewatch Rebels. So I will get back around to Lock and Key. I will do it. It's on my list. It's on my Netflix list. Like, I'm not just saying like it's on some nebulous list. It's there.
It's good.
I gotta
Give it
get
a
to
watch
it.
before season 2 comes out. I mean,
Okay.
It's just like, I mean, it's like watching Stranger Things. It could take you a few days if you sat down and committed to watching it.
Gotcha.
2 episodes a night or something. You could get it done, and I think you'd get hooked. And it's a really interesting story. So anyway, good news to everybody out there who loves Lock and Key like I do.
Okay, I like it. I like it. So here's the thing, Matt. I'm done with Rebel Intelligence. You're done, right?
Yeah, man.
Okay.
I'm out.
You're out. Good. Last week we talked about the old Disney investor, and the question of the week when we ended the podcast was, what you were hyped for? And then I decided, pump the brakes. Hold on. Wait a minute. This is the Christmas episode because we moved things around a little bit, and I was like, let's talk about Christmas movies. Let's ask our super friends what's their favorite Christmas movie. So I pulled a quick 360, pulled the e-brake, we slid in a different direction, but we did ask the super friends, what is your favorite Christmas movie? And we got a few answers. So we are going to read those now. We're going to go over and start where we always do, which is our email, forwardofnerd@gmail.com. And we've got Peter Christensen. He says, Dear Nerds, I've been to the Great Wolf Lodge in Seattle and seen indoor water parks when I lived in Chicago, but I've never been to Kalahari. Maybe when we ever take our trip to Texas, we'll have to go. All I know about Cyberpunk 2077 is the memes about customizing your character's junk size. Which Matt can attest to. I'm pretty sure you can turn a lot of that adult stuff off.
Yeah, I didn't see it. Thank goodness.
Yep. He says Disney has earned every penny of that $1 per month increase. Not to minimize it, but multiplied by 86 million subscribers, that's 1 billion extra per year.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not chump change, Matt.
Right.
I mean, that's real money. And, I'll take it. He says, I bought Tenet and have tried watching it at home, but my kids are too crazy now. But I remain very impressed at how much they wrote and filmed the realities of that world and how everything fits and works and pays off. I'm looking forward to the special features as well. Did Tenet just release to the streaming services?
No, I mean, unlike Vudu and like pay to watch it.
Like, can I go on like iTunes and purchase it right now?
I think so, yeah.
I for some reason thought it was happening after Christmas.
I don't think so. I mean, he's watching it, so it must be out.
Must be. Dang. Add that to the list. He said, I didn't know about the Disney investors call, but I noticed a bunch of trailers posted to YouTube. Normally, I don't get involved with shows and movies that are months to years away, but I did watch 2. Loki. All I have to say is gimme, gimme, gimme. And Peter, yes.
Yeah.
He says, Falcon and the Winter Soldier. The trailer didn't do much for me, but I've wanted this since Captain America Civil War because of how hilariously the two hated each other. I'll probably watch all the miscellaneous Marvel shows, but I'm more excited about the Star Wars shows than Marvel shows at this point. I love Rogue One, but if you made me pick between Rogue One or The Mandalorian, I would cry. I'd probably take Mando because of all the future stories Mando has set up. The show's been making fans and characters confront the moral complexities. It wouldn't surprise me if they introduce a story from the perspective of the Empire in the next few years. And he says, question about the Death Star. Did it have stacked decks or onion-like layers with gravity at the center? Stacked decks. Yeah, stacked decks. Okay, he says, question of the week. Actually, he talks a lot more about The Mandalorian Season 2. But I've got to skip that because there's definitely people that haven't finished it yet, and it'll spoil so much stuff. So, Peter, I will read through the rest of this stuff, and I will directly respond to you. because I'm all about talking about The Mandalorian right now. Okay, question of the week. What is my favorite Christmas movie? It says, A Christmas Story is one that I can't skip, even though it's not my favorite. The one I look forward to most is Mr. Krueger's Christmas, a short movie released by my church about 40 years ago about an old lonely man reflecting on Christmas memories, and he makes a new friend who also shares the spirit of Christmas. It's beautiful, and Christmas isn't Christmas without it. Cheers to you and yours, Peter Christensen. And I also will say that Mr. Krueger's Christmas has Jimmy Stewart in it. And if you heard the beginning of the podcast, I did my Jimmy Stewart It's a Wonderful Life impression. So double bonus points for more Jimmy Stewart in this podcast.
Nice.
We didn't have anything on Facebook, so let's go over to Twitter. We've got El Myco at GizPicka. He says, number 1, Gremlins, best Christmas movie ever. I love Gremlins. It's not, I mean, I know it is a Christmas movie. It centers around Christmas. It all happens at Christmas. For some reason, I just kind of always forget that technically falls into the Christmas category.
Right. Gremlins is not as good as I remember it when I watched it, if you to be completely honest. It's one of those ones where I'm like, it's got a good cult following for a good reason.
Sure. It's got a special place in my heart, though.
Okay, absolutely.
Okay. Number 2, Jingle All the Way. Classic.
You're coming in with jokes.
He says,
Jingle All the Way is terrible.
He says,
all the right ways.
Only monsters and heathens don't love Jingle All the Way. Now that's the moment I know that he's totally trolling. Oh gosh, that's so funny. There's a special
place for Jingle All the Way. I mean, it is like, it's Arnold Schwarzenegger trying to get a toy for his kid. I mean, come on.
It's funny.
It is semi-classic.
It's funny because like that story is like, it's like an everyman story, like, a parent trying to get a toy for their kid at Christmas and dealing with all that. But then again, it's a vehicle for Arnold Schwarzenegger to let him, catchphrase out and be.
Is Sinbad in that movie? Is
yes.
he like a rival parent?
Yes.
That he's like, come on, you've got to watch it once.
You know that this is a 90s movie when Sinbad is involved. Because I don't think Sinbad's career made it out of the 90s.
No,
okay. Let's move on. We've got Side Hustle Ninja at dspin67. He says, A Christmas Story, Miracle on 34th Street, It's a Wonderful Life, How the Grinch Stole Christmas, not the Jim Carrey version, Home Alone, and National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. And then he says,
too many.
I know. I mean, his favorite. He's got a 6-way tie going on for his favorite. But he says that he watched Elf yesterday for the first time, and he says, not sure what the hoopla is about. Kind of funny at times, but they were few and far between.
Okay.
That hurts a little.
Yeah, I don't know what to say.
I find that movie so funny.
It's excellent.
But
that's a have to watch every year.
Here's the thing, though. Will Ferrell isn't everyone's cup of tea.
No, he's not.
That's fair.
He's not.
All right, and then the last one we've got Admiral Snack Bar at super_Gibby says, Jingle All the Way, hands down, is my favorite movie.
Oh my gosh.
And of course, then GizPicka says, Gibby, good morning, and I love you. Because the two of them are in agreement about Jingle All the Way.
Okay. I see what mood the Super Friends were in this week.
Not necessarily the direction I would have gone, but you know what? That's okay because it's your opinions, Super Friends, and we appreciate those opinions each and every week. That's why we ask you, because we want to hear from you. We want your opinions. Matt, Super Friends, they're out there helping us. They're out there every week spreading the good word about the Fortress Nerditude podcast. They're out there diligently beating the streets, bringing in new converts to the Fortress of Nerditude. how can they help us this week? What can they do on this week of merriment and Christmas?
Yeah, it's Christmas Eve or Christmas Day or the day after Christmas. Give somebody a hug. Give someone
Ooh.
a hug.
Masked up, gloved up
It
hug?
may be what?
Masked up and gloved up hug? I
Yeah.
mean, we're still
I was
COVID.
just saying,
And...
so that was my. It depends on
Okay.
who you're with. I mean,
Gotcha.
chances are many of our super seeing people they haven't seen in a long time.
Sure.
And you're probably not wearing masks in your house with your family. I'm just gonna say it. I'm not saying I'm not endorsing any
Right.
behavior one way or the other, but give them a hug. And I know that you probably already have, but appreciate those moments and being with people you love and people you care about. And even if they're not family, close friends and neighbors, and it's that time of year. So just take a moment right now and just pause the podcast, give them a hug, tell them you love them, and then come back because the tone is about to shift.
Fair enough. It
Yeah.
sounded a little ominous. The tone is about to shift.
Because we're going to, no, it's about to get silly up in this place.
It's about to get silly up in here. Yes. Matt, we punted a week ago the discussion that we're gonna have tonight. So we just asked our super friends what is their favorite Christmas movie, and I'm gonna talk about my favorite Christmas movie. Is this your favorite? This is like you said, number 1 or 2. It could bounce back and forth, right?
Yeah, it's one probably, but sometimes I go, oh, but what about? And then I watch this movie again, and I go, no, this is the best Christmas movie.
we rewatched this movie Saturday night. I think it was Saturday night. Saturday or Sunday night, I don't remember, man. Those days just blurred together real fast. But our choice for the movie club this month is National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. And I gotta say that, like, this movie for me is my favorite Christmas movie. Technically, it's probably not the best Christmas movie. Right. It probably doesn't have some of the traditional accoutrements that you're looking for in a Christmas movie. But for me, I love a good comedy. I loved the National Lampoon movies back in the day. I loved Chevy Chase back in the day before he got really weird and old and grouchy. National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation to me is a darn near perfect Christmas comedy movie. I know a lot of people talk Elf nowadays, and Elf is a really funny movie. But in my opinion, Elf doesn't hold a candle to this movie. Not at all.
I will. This has been a classic for my whole life. This is actually a movie that growing up we often watched the day after Thanksgiving. This was to truly usher in the Christmas season.
Okay.
Christmas Vacation. And therefore it would be often played more than once in our house because when you start it that early, you're like, well, let's watch it again. And I'm with you. Chevy Chase, when he's on, is one of the funniest comedians to ever grace the silver screen.
Sadly, that's been a little while.
Oh, look, Chevy Chase, and this to me, I mean, Chevy Chase will be remembered for a lot of different things, but this role will be if there was one, this would be the one.
Yeah, Clark Griswold.
His role is Clark Griswold in Pick Your Poison. But even of those movies, this is the one. Like this is Chevy Chase. And to all that Pierce Hawthorne from Community. I mean,
sure,
you don't have to get into that, but that's his renaissance of sorts.
So the funny thing is like John Hughes, who ended up writing the movie, didn't actually want to write it originally because he was just like, well, at this point, the National Lampoon movies just became a Chevy Chase vehicle. And so,
Right.
like, he didn't really kind of want to do this. But then he went back and he found a story that was published inside of the National Lampoon magazine called Christmas 59. Uh, and he used that story to base the National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation on.
Interesting. Okay.
And that kind of gave him a better framework to try to write something that was maybe a little more expansive than just being purely a vehicle for Chevy Chase.
Okay.
Which I gotta admit, like, there's a lot of really good comedy writing for a lot of the actors in this film, not just Chevy.
Right. There's great moments from really everyone.
Yep.
Whether you're a great aunt or you're an uncle, or
Oh,
I mean, there's
Cousin Eddie.
or you're a neighbor, right? I mean,
Right.
there are moments that are so quotable and so funny. And I will say this, my wife hates Christmas Vacation. And our
Ooh.
in-laws, Spencer,
Yeah.
do not like Christmas Vacation.
Brita does.
This is not their thing. Okay, Brita
I've,
does.
I've converted Brita.
As a whole, our in-laws are not a fan of Christmas Vacation. Which to me is just bizarre. And so
Yeah.
I watched this movie alone.
Okay.
That's how I get to enjoy Christmas Vacation. Plus, I've got family in town. So I watched this one by myself.
Yeah.
On let's see, we're recording this on Monday. I watched it on Friday
Okay.
in the morning while I was working. And by while I was working, I mean I wasn't working. I was watching this movie.
Sure.
Um,
Sure.
And I just to this day I just can't understand it.
Mm.
How anybody could not like this movie, but then again, I also can't understand why people don't like Adam Sandler movies, but clearly they don't.
Sure. Although Netflix does.
They know where the money is.
They know where the money is, yeah.
Yeah, there are so many great characters in this movie. I mean, this is again, like you said, this is comedy gold. This is an ensemble comedy, but truly, even though it's an ensemble, you know who the focus is.
Right.
It's the all-American dad who just wants to have a good old-fashioned family Christmas.
Right, yep.
And it's good because it's relatable in some ways. Obviously overdone to where you laugh.
Mm-hmm.
Like when the family begins to arrive and the doorbell rings, it's like this call to everyone in the house, and they're like, "Oh man,
impending doom." Yes.
Yeah. I mean, that's it's never that dramatic, and we never feel that way.
Yeah.
But kind of when it's over or a couple days in, you're like, "Oh my gosh, can this just? I love my family, but come on,
get out." Yep. I know that. I know that feeling. I think so. Like, going back to your question, like why some people love this Christmas movie and then other people like don't. I think this is my opinion, and this is only my opinion, is that I think some people are okay with people poking fun and having some irreverent humor at things that are considered traditional or classics, because this movie does kind of poke fun at like the idea of a classic traditional family Christmas, right? You've got this overly zealous faith believing father who just wants to do whatever he can to provide his family a good old fashioned fun family Christmas, right? Yeah. But everything goes wrong, and like he's trying to keep it together, and then finally he snaps and he loses it, and you just see like slowly, like throughout the movie, like his rage is just starting to boil and bubble, and it's getting closer and closer to the surface, so that eventually when he just loses it and snaps, like he just lets go. And I think that for me, I find it very funny and refreshing to see humor poked, satire and some of that kind of irreverent humor around something like Christmas, because Christmas is a magical time. It's a special time. It's a family time. But let's be honest, it can be a stressful time. It can be a time where you're struggling with family or in-laws or whatever, and like it can get to people, and people can snap and can overload.
Right.
And I think that they do this in a very, very funny way. I think some people just don't like to look at that side of it and maybe not see that, and they think that maybe it's too crass or too crude, which I don't think it is. But
No, I don't know. I haven't ever actually asked why she doesn't like it. I just accept it because I still love it and we still watch it.
right.
And I've made Jessie watch it a couple of times, and she'll suffer through it in her words, not mine. But we make a trade because I hate White Christmas. I hate that movie.
Yeah.
I won't watch
Yeah.
that, and she loves it, so she'll watch that by herself, and I'll watch Christmas Vacation.
Yeah, that movie I find to be boring and slow.
Oh, it's boring.
Oh.
Anyway, so what do you want to talk about with this movie? The thing is, as we're talking of 100 million things that I could say, 100 million things I could comment on.
So I think, I mean, man, where do you start?
It's really tough. So I'll want to talk. Let's talk a little bit about the lesser knowns, and let's talk about right quick, just a little aside about the neighbors.
Yes.
Julia, what is it? Julia Louis-Dreyfus.
Yeah, Julia Louis-Dreyfus.
So it's hard to say sometimes. Her and the guy that, whoever she's with,
Todd.
Well, yeah, the character Todd. I don't know, Margot.
I don't know, Margot. I love that. Ugh.
So with every interaction with those characters is obviously hilarious.
Yep.
Obviously, they are meant to be in juxtaposition with Clark Griswold and his family.
Right.
Where Clark is the traditional, like, standard, like, everyday
family man. Yeah.
These two are kind of we're living together, and we've got, we like to go jogging.
They're the yuppie neighbors.
And we can't stand Clark Griswold and his crazy antics in his family. Yeah. And that obviously is going to cause for some comedic moments, and Clark Griswold couldn't give a crap about what they think.
No, not at all.
Whether it's the man or the woman.
Yep.
I wasn't talking to you.
That is my favorite line in that movie. I quote that all the time. Hey, Griswold, where are you going to put a tree that big? Bend over and I'll show you. You got a lot of nerve talking to me like that. Wasn't talking to you. Dude,
And Todd is the ultimate, like, wimp.
Oh, yeah.
He never defends Margot.
Never.
She asks him to go talk to them. He doesn't do anything. Todd is a tool.
Yep.
You don't want to date a Todd.
No.
So she was right in punching his lights out after all of the crazy crap she went through.
I do love that juxtaposition, though, that, like, the neighbors next door are like these yuppie, preppy neighbors that just can't stand Clark. And Clark just doesn't give a crap. He's like, whatever, like, you know, screwed you guys. Like, my family is my focus. I don't care what my neighbors think. Which we obviously know because of how he freaking decorates his house and his lawn. The guy puts like 1 million light bulbs on this house. Matt, like the whole scene where, like, you know, he's trying to put it up, and he staples his arm, and he's falling down the ladder. Like, it's just all like great visual sight gags. But when he finally gets it to work, and then like the whole power goes out, and then they have to like turn on like the breaker at like the power plant or whatever to get it going. Yeah. Like, the idea that a house is so gaudily, like, decorated with all the light bulbs and all the things and whatnot is now referred to as the Griswold house. So people literally will say, oh yeah, down the street at the Griswold house, because it's decorated that poorly or that, like, ugly or whatever. I love that term spawns out of this movie, because it was a joke, and it was just done as a joke for the movie, and like people really do that now, and like that's what's referenced. People say, oh yeah, down the street at the Griswold house.
Yeah,
I love that.
I mean, there's so much as it pertains to that whole series of scenes with the exterior illumination.
Yep.
I am one of my favorite. The part that I laugh out loud, maybe there's really two parts in that whole sequence, because there's the day and then there's the night and there's the untangling. There's a whole bunch of stuff that's really funny with this. But as you've mentioned, when he pulls his arm sleeve as it's stapled,
yes,
to the light string, and he goes back and he falls back. And then when he goes back to the house and he's on the underside of the ladder,
and he's trying to figure out where to put his arm,
which
side. Oh gosh, it's so good.
Stop. And you know that's Chevy Chase just BSing right there on the
spot. for sure.
They were like, Chevy, do your physical comedy thing.
Yeah.
And he's out there just with his hand going over, under.
Yeah.
It's the subtleties of Chevy Chase that make him so brilliant, and this movie lets it shine. That part of that movie, maybe many people just let it wash over them, but for me, I just absorbed the whole thing.
You know, like when I was younger and I'd watch this, I always laughed at the stapling of the sleeve and the sleeve ripping off and then like flying back and then coming back. But I never really kind of saw the humor in the where to put the hand, where do I hold the ladder now, over, under, over. But since I've been a homeowner and I've climbed up on my roof to put Christmas lights and I've done that, like I've climbed enough ladders now as an adult that like I understand that sometimes when you're in a precarious position and you're high up on a ladder, like you need to secure yourself to another point on a ladder or a building or a tree or whatever, but you don't exactly know how to hold it because it's not convenient. And so like for me, it's a little subtle thing that like now impacts me differently, and I laugh at it so much harder. Like that scene came up and I was laughing more. I didn't laugh at the whole like he flew off the tree, he kicked off the tree and back. I didn't laugh at that, but it was the where does he put his hand now, because he's flipped up reverse on the ladder. Oh my gosh. Like I just love that, like that's something that like I keyed in on and that you brought that up.
I'm glad. I mean, there's the classic scenes. I mean, when he finally lights it, right? And he's got the whole family out there and they're just crapping on him. The in-laws just, well, that's, way to waste your day and pissing your money away, and the drum roll, and it
goes on forever.
That funniest part of that whole scene for me is Chevy Chase. He holds both plugs in his hand and goes to plug them in and sings joy to
right.
Just how do you think of that? That is so funny and so brilliant, and then for everything to just die on him, it's just brilliant. Everything about that whole scene is brilliant.
It's great comedic juxtaposition. It really is the build up and nothing, and of course that's where the humor comes in. I there's a lot of like little things like that in the movie that make me laugh, like little sight. Like I noticed more in this movie, this rewatch, because I was trying to watch it with a more critical eye. The sight gags in this movie I think are a lot better than maybe I remembered. It's like there's the scene where he's going with cousin Eddie. They go to Walmart and Eddie's putting on the dog food, and Clark only needed a pack of light bulbs and he thought Eddie was done, so he puts his light bulbs on top and then he throws a 25-pound bag on and it crushes all 4 bulbs under it. You don't even see the box. Like it's like little sight gags like that, because Chevy Chase was the master at like little facial expressions, little quick looks, a raise of the eyebrow, things like that really, really, really speak to me comedically, and I would just get like a huge kick out of that. Or the fact when he's imagining the pool, right? And he's imagining what it's going to look like, and then he starts imagining the lady from the lingerie counter at the mall or whatever, and she's out there kind of pulling it down her shoulder like she's gonna like skinny dip or whatever, and then she goes to fling it off with her foot, and then the next thing you see him at the window and a red bathing suit hits the actual window. Like it's so ridiculously dumb because he's obviously imagining this. So then to throw in the juxtaposition of this is supposed to be an imaginary thing, and here's physically the suit hitting the window. I just laugh at that. It just makes me giggle because it's like that's not supposed to happen, and that's where I really kind of key off on some of the comedic stuff is the little things like that. You're like that's not supposed to be there. That's not supposed to happen. So
Yeah, it's denser than people realize.
yeah, for
It
sure.
reminds me of some of my favorite shows with, Community and Arrested Development and shows like that where it's just really dense with humor, where you need to watch it multiple times to catch everything. And that's what's happening in Christmas Vacation for me is you need to watch everyone in the scene because
Yes.
Uncle Eddie's always doing something weird.
Yes.
And if you're not paying attention to him or you're only listening to the conversation that they're having, then you're going to miss what he's doing.
Right. Yep.
And that's the same in a lot of different scenes with other characters as well. You have to be paying attention to all of the characters and what they're doing and where their hands are placed and what their faces look like. I mean, it's very dense in the types of humor too. It's very layered.
Right. Well, it's also kind of like the Uncle Lewis, who's played by William Hickey, who's the uncle that's wears the wig and smokes a cigar, and then Bethany, great Aunt Bethany,
Yes.
who's like the senile aunt who the wife of Lewis, where she she packs up her cat and she puts it
Right.
we get that it's funny because we all have or have had at some point an aged relative that you kind of just have to deal with, and they're kind of crazy. But what I love is that the interplay between them is that they're senile, they're hard of hearing, they get confused by stuff, and it could be really easy to make that too much and find a way to all of a sudden you'd feel bad for the characters and you would emotionally connect and be like, they're just unfortunately being mean to people, but unfortunately but that's not what they do, right?
Right.
And so it's just enough where they ask her to say grace and she stands up and she starts saying the Pledge of Allegiance, and you get that panicked moment around the table, what do we do? What do we do?
Yeah.
And then everyone ends up standing up and putting their hand over their heart and saying the Pledge of Allegiance to finish off saying grace before they cut the turkey. It's little things like that where it's we're going to show them being senile, but we're really not going to let it be emotional and, whatever, because we're only doing this for comedic, and then we're going to pull back and we're going to reveal that this was just a joke so we could get in the Pledge of Allegiance instead of, whatever else they were doing.
Instead of the blessing.
The blessing. Yes. Oh gosh. So good. So
But it's just anyway.
Yeah. There's lots of little things like that where I think it goes along to your thing about saying that it's dense. There's a lot of humor packed in, whether it's visual, whether it's actual the gags, or whether it's subverting your expectations for what you think is about to happen. And I think they did a real good job of that.
And they did. And it reminds me that there's a part I should say that reminds me of Home Alone, where what's going to happen, but it's still funny anyway. And that's when you've got something special.
So
when he's up in the attic and he's stepping on the different boards and he's getting hit in the face, and he's going to get hit in the face. And it's going to happen over and over again. It's still funny when it continues to happen.
Yep. So you brought up Home Alone. Did you know that the director of Home Alone, Chris Columbus, was originally supposed to direct National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation?
I did not know that.
He was originally supposed to direct Christmas Vacation. He came on set. He'd only been on set maybe 2 weeks, and he went back to John Hughes and says, I can't work with Chevy Chase. And so John Hughes said, okay. So technically Chris Columbus did shoot some second unit stuff and some establishing shots.
Okay.
But that's about it. And so he said look, because he was trying to give him a big break, really try to give him a bigger movie. And so he says, because this one didn't work out, I'll give you my next script, which was Home Alone.
Right.
And that became like the big breakout film for Chris Columbus that really helped like take his career into the stratosphere. So
Yeah.
interesting little tidbit. Side note there.
Well, Chris Columbus, look
Yep.
at that! Didn't he? I didn't even mean to make that little connection there.
Yeah. How about that?
But the physical humor there too. There's obvious.
Oh,
There's some
yep,
similarities
for sure.
between these two movies, at least in the physical humor aspect of things.
Something that always bugged me, Matt, is every John Hughes film is set in Chicago. He's a Chicago guy through and through. So
Uh-huh.
that's why, Clark Griswold is from Chicago and it's set in Chicago. And at the beginning of this movie, when they go get the Christmas tree and they go out there, if you look, they're not in the flat cornfields of Chicago. And so I looked this up that the film was not filmed in Illinois. That was actually filmed primarily principal photography in Summit County, Colorado, with footage also in Silverthorne, Breckenridge, and Frisco. And then they moved to the Warner Brothers lot in Burbank, California, for where the house is actually located. So
Okay.
realistically, the only things that were in Chicago is there's a couple establishing shots to show that it's Chicago when Clark is at work and he's talking to his boss and whatnot. Other than that, everything else is either in Colorado or back in the Warner Brothers lot, which makes sense to me because I remember going like, man, they're in the mountains somewhere. Like,
Yeah.
do you know how far you would have to drive from Illinois to find that sort of background to go out
Right.
and get your own Christmas tree? Like, that's not Illinois.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Uh,
What I appreciate about I always like movies where they show a hockey. I'm a big hockey fan, and
mhm.
so this movie, I always get happy because there's a Chicago Blackhawks jersey, and it's
Yeah.
even got his last name on the back.
Griswold
So
0-0.
it's I always appreciate a good hockey reference. So shout out to the costume design team for
So
throwing in hockey.
so
Thank
the
you.
funny thing is like growing up, I would go to Blackhawks games and you would see people that would have Griswold jerseys in the stands and
Yeah,
in the bleachers and the seats and all. Like
I
I
like that.
I always loved it. I was like, man, one day I want to get me a Griswold jersey.
Oh my gosh.
I love it. I love it. I'll let's see here. 'Cause I looked up a bunch of like different like little trivia and things that I thought would be interesting.
Okay.
So um the hat that you see him wear at the beginning when he's like outside working, um and he's wearing that Chicago Bears navy
Yes.
blue hat with the burnt orange, the Bears colors. That's the same hat he wore in the first two vacation movies. So National Lampoon's Vacation and European Vacation.
Oh.
Exact
Okay.
same hat.
Cool.
And that this was the first and I believe only movie in the National Lampoon Vacation series that actually didn't take place of really traveling and going on a vacation. All the others, they actually go somewhere and
Yeah.
they take a vacation. But this movie, they're just at home at Christmas time.
Interesting. Okay. Okay.
Last piece of trivia here. Every other vacation movie features the song Holiday Road. This was the only vacation movie not to feature Holiday Road. Instead, they had a special song written called Christmas Vacation just for this film, which obviously plays at the very beginning with all the animated, intro,
Yeah.
and then they play again at the very, very end. Which is interesting because, like, Holiday Road, I just associate with the vacation movies so hard. But at the same time, I've seen Christmas Vacation so much that I know the Christmas Vacation song by heart as well.
Yeah.
So interesting that they didn't use the Holiday Road. Interesting that this one doesn't focus on traveling somewhere because I think easily they could have told a story where they went somewhere, but since this was based on that that story Christmas 59, they kind of centered it all just around the house and everyone coming there to be with the Griswolds.
Interesting.
Yes.
Interesting.
So Matt, let me ask you a question here. Do you think as we go down the road, do you think this movie is going to become more of a Christmas classic, less of a Christmas classic, or kind of stay about the same in the zeitgeist of like Christmas movies?
It's gonna stay the same until we get more Christmas movies. That's my opinion. Um, my kids will have to watch this. Your kids will have to. I mean, it's not. It's not going to go away.
Yeah.
The comedy, and it's because the comedy is timeless. At least, again, in my opinion, the type of comedy is timeless. A guy putting up his Christmas decorations is never not going to be funny.
Right.
Like that's always going to happen. It's always going to be funny. There's not a lot of kind of like periodic humor.
Something that ties it to a certain time period.
Yeah, or it's not going to be overly dated. I mean, maybe the next generation, our kids will kind of look at the TVs and they'll be shocked that you know what I mean. Like there will be little
Sure.
things where they'll be like, "Well, that's weird," but there's nothing in here that's like overly referential to, like I don't know, Billie Eilish. Like if they were to happen today,
Okay, yeah,
like
I know what you're
somebody
saying.
that's only going to pop in and then pop out, and it's not going to be funny anymore.
Yeah.
So I think this is going to be a classic forever, and I say that with as much bias as one can possibly have because this is one of the great masterpieces
Yeah.
of the last 185,000 years of existence.
Well, it came out in 1989, so it's only been around for about 31
But it's
years.
still better than everything before it. That's what I'm trying to say.
I think this movie's going to hold up because it's interesting. Because I went back and I did some research, and like originally, like Siskel and Ebert didn't review this very well. They just kind of thought it was kind of sophomoric and just not very entertaining. And that originally, like the reviews were just, it was kind of mixed on it, so to speak. Like it just wasn't like, it wasn't super super high. Like it got like I think it was a 68% on Rotten Tomatoes, which like you would think that would be higher because it is like so well loved, kind of in the lexicon, but like it only got a 6.8. It's, let's see here. Variety responded positively, saying solid family fare with plenty of yucks. National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation is Chevy Chase and Brood doing what they do best. It says, despite the titles to the links in the previous picks in the Rambling Vacation series, this third entry is rooted at the Griswold family homestead, where Clark Griswold is engaged in typical overreaching attempt to give his family the perfect old-fashioned Christmas. Rita Kempley from the Washington Post gave it a positive review. Says it will prove paterfamiliar to fans of the 1983 original and European Vacation sequel, only a bit more whimsical, right? So it's going to add in the Christmas. But Roger Ebert from the Sun-Times at the time gave it 2 out of 4 stars. He says the movie is curious in how close it comes to delivering on its material. Sequence after sequence seems to contain all the necessary material to be well on the way toward the payoff, and then somehow doesn't work. So like Roger Ebert's, he's a well-known, beloved critic, right? Who's no longer with us, obviously. Right. But, he kind of said, like, it's got all the trappings of, like, really good comedy payoff, but not quite there. And I kind of look at that and I say, here's the problem when we look at, like, reviewers of comedy, is that comedy is very, very subjective.
Mm-hmm.
And things that I may find funny, you may not, or vice versa. And they can still be comedy, and they're still going for this, but because of maybe my personal flavor of comedy, my taste, it hits me differently than it hits you. And so, like, that's why I think when it comes to, like, comedy movies, especially ones that seem to, like, over time get a consensus from the public that it was a funny movie or that was good, you have to be very, very careful with the professional critics, because sometimes, it just may not hit them the way it hits maybe the majority of America or the world or whatever, right?
Absolutely. Comedy is where I go, I don't trust the critics.
Yeah.
No matter what, I typically don't trust the critics because some of my favorite movies are like 10% on Rotten Tomatoes. And I just don't care what you think if you're a critic as it pertains to a comedy.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't, depending on the type of comedy um, I'm looking at. Like if I know I'm going to an Adam Sandler movie, I know and it's like these critics are like they don't know what they're getting into. You know what I mean? Like they're not reviewing it through the same lens that I
Sure.
think Americans in general view. When they're going to a Chevy Chase movie, you know what you're going to see. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And so I think you're right. Humor obviously being subjective completely. Um, and though you and I share many commonalities in sense of humor, there's obviously going to be a lot of things that we don't agree on in humor as well. So, it's Christmas Vacation is an all-time classic. The music, it is over the top, and I love it for that. Even with the music, it gets over the top, right? The when like there's like a
Yeah.
realization, or there's like silly scenes where like you get a zoom in on Eddie and he's like, bingo, and you're like,
Right.
that is so over the top and it would never happen in real life, but I still love it. I mean, or when he's emptying out the RV and that music that
Yeah.
comes on as he's out there in his
Boom, boom,
bathrobe
boom,
and his
boom,
like
boom,
flappy
yeah.
colored hat,
Yes.
and the neighbor comes outside. That
So good.
was fall.
So good.
Mean, some of the great. I mean, I kind of get what they're saying. This is almost a series of sketches that make a somewhat cohesive story.
Right.
I mean, that's really what you could argue that if you wanted to. For people who don't get it, I can see if you're looking for like a cohesive, like front to back emotional Christmas story, you're not going to get it with Christmas Vacation. That's just not.
So
it's at least
you brought up the music. Did you know that there's only two, besides the Vacation song that was written for this film? Do you know there's only two other like actual like recorded songs that they use in the film?
I believe it.
So it's
I don't remember there being much score.
So it's not. Matter of fact, they didn't actually even release a an album for like musical score or soundtrack or anything, but they used two songs. The first one was by Bing Crosby and the Andrews Sisters. It's the Hawaiian themed Mele Kalikimaka,
right?
Which is Hawaiian's way of saying Merry Christmas to you. That was used, and then at the very end of the climax is the Gene Autry's Here Comes Santa Claus. And those are the only two songs that they use, which is interesting because like the Gene Autry Here Comes Santa Claus is it's a very classic Christmas song. Yeah. But the Mele Kalikimaka, while it is a Christmas Hawaiian themed Christmas song, it's not the exact thing you would first think of, but they use it perfectly in the pool dream sequence because they needed something that says Christmas, but Christmas from a warm locale.
Mm-hmm.
And so interesting that no real musical score or soundtrack was ever released, but just those two songs besides the one written for it were really the only music that they, like at least licensed music that they used at all.
Right. Yeah, and I mean, there's only a few times where you really music, and I feel like I've pointed out the only times, or maybe when upstairs and he's wearing all of those women's clothing and bathrobe and stuff, and he's watching the old family videos, and there's music playing.
Yep.
To kind of get you really, that's really the only emotional moment in this whole movie.
Mm-hmm.
is kind of as he's looking back, and that he wants his family as he's stuck in an attic that he probably could have crawled out of once he made the hole in the
that's I think that every single time it's like he breaks through the freaking drywall, and then and that is once again, it's one of those moments where it's like he literally could just like get down and he's into the house and be warm, but instead he just rubs his hands and puts his hands over the hole to use it to get warm like he's over a campfire. Oh,
Right.
like that just
Yeah.
makes me laugh because
Yeah.
it's ridiculous and it's funny and it's like the easy thing is to be like, well, just go down through the hole, you idiot. Like you're right
Right.
there.
Yeah.
But I love it. Okay. When this movie released, Matt, I'm going to ask you a little quiz. When this
Okay.
movie released,
Oh, gosh.
December 1st, 1989, what position in the box office? Did this open number one of the box office, two, three, four, five, six? If you were to take a guess, what do you think, what position did this open at the box
Three.
office? It actually opened at number two,
Okay.
which you would think December 1st, like leading up to Christmas, this would probably be
Right.
a pretty big no-brainer. It opened up at almost $12 million. It was like $11.7 million. Do you know what movie it was behind that was number one at the box office?
December 1st, 1989. Of course, my pantheon of knowledge. No.
If you were to say Back to the Future 2, you would be correct.
Oh, okay.
So while this is a holiday themed movie, it had to go up against Back to the Future, which was a
That's a tough get.
huge blockbuster, right?
Yeah.
So interestingly, it opened up at number two, and then after 2 additional weeks in the theaters, like its third week in the theater, then it went to number one, which would actually put it right around Christmas time.
Yeah.
The movie was made on a budget of $25 million, and it ended up bringing back in the box office $73.3 million. So it tripled its budget in box office take. And that's before the at-home market of VHS and then eventually DVD, Blu-ray, all that sort of thing. So not only was it, I think a well-received movie overall by the general public. I mean, 68%. I mean, that's almost 70%. So 7 out of 10 people enjoyed it. But it made triple the amount of money that it cost to make the film in the box office. So definitely a successful outing in the National Lampoon's Vacation series. And obviously here we are, 31 years later, still talking about our love for this Christmas movie.
Yeah.
So Warner Brothers got this one right, in my opinion.
Oh yeah. I mean, we need more. I talk about this every year. We just need more classic Christmas movies, and it's hard to really think of anything in the last decade or even longer that's been dubbed a classic. I think Elf is the last classic, at least in my opinion. So the fact that I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, I think as we move forward, I think it's going to be harder for movies to break into that classic kind of Christmas kind of realm, right? Where people go like, ooh, this is a Christmas movie that I watch every year or whatever, because like every year there's probably like, I don't know, 20 new Christmas movies that come out on the Hallmark Channel. Like there's Christmas movies galore, right?
Yeah.
But I'd say that there's only probably every few years like a big kind of Christmas movie, and like the Santa Claus sticks out, like those movies. Of course, they went a few too long.
Early 90s,
right? And then you've got Elf, and then you've going back, you got Vacation. I mean, you've got stuff like It's a Wonderful Life. I mean, we're talking like the 1930s.
We haven't had anything.
Christmas Story.
The 90s was great for Christmas. Let's just say it like it is. I mean,
Jingle All the Way. We talked about it earlier. Jingle All the Way
to the 90s. If you Christmas Vacation in 1989, followed by Home Alone and Home Alone 2, Muppet Christmas Carol, The Santa Claus. I mean, it was a good decade.
Die Hard in like 1988.
There you go.
I mean,
so there was a good stretch there where we had some great Christmas movies. And since then, what have you got? You've got a divisive film, which I think is hilarious, in The Grinch with Jim Carrey. And then you've got Elf. and so it's tough to break through. I think it's just the lack of original ideas and
What was the
execution.
Tom Hanks
Oh
animated one that
no,
I
nightmares, not
I
sleeping
I
fast.
yeah, I know I'm not a
The Polar Express.
Polar Express. Yes, I'm not a big fan of the Polar Express either.
I
Uh,
don't know anybody who
this,
likes that movie.
but you know what though? That movie, maybe because the story is actually beloved. Like my kids, like at their school, they do a Polar Express thing, and like,
Yeah, the story is beloved. I agree.
but that movie gets seen a lot in a
Ugh.
lot of places. I agree. It's not on my list.
The
Uh,
uncanny valley is real.
it's so hard in that
That's the
movie.
scariest. I hate that movie.
It's
Oh,
so hard in that movie, for sure.
yeah.
Matt, let's rate and review uh Christmas National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. If you were watching this for the first time and you were rating this, so try to take out your bias because I know we both love this
Oh
movie.
gosh.
How would you rate this as a Christmas movie, a Christmas comedy movie?
I can't remove bias. I can't remove nostalgia, and I can't remove how funny it is. Look, it holds its. Okay, here's how good it is. I've never seen a vacation movie, Christmas Vacation.
Really?
Never. So you don't
Oh,
have to have seen anything prior or after or have any context for
wow.
this movie to be fantastic.
Okay.
That's the sign. That's one of the signs for me of a great Christmas movie in particular. The comedy is gold. Chevy Chase is brilliant. The rest of the cast is
Uh-huh.
perfect. It's relatable in all the right ways. It caricatures of real human life. I mean, it has everything. To me, it has something for everyone. Though my wife would completely disagree. I don't care. It has something for her. She just doesn't want to realize it yet. Um, so for me, this is top notch. This is incredible. This is light. This is happiness. This is joy. This is excellent. It's perfect.
So a grade would
A
be
plus. Come on.
okay.
I don't know whatever the highest give it is.
Okay.
Christmas story pluses. A plus 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 plus.
Plus, plus, plus. For me, like I look at this, I'm like, I love this movie. I think it's so good through and through. Um, I will say the pacing occasionally drags a little bit, especially when they kind of go back and forth between like the, trying to figure out the bonus stuff and the talking at work to his boss, like and the whole like hey, I've got a thing and you need the reports and like there's humor there, but it does drag and slow down just a little bit in some of those parts for me. So the pacing has a few little bit of problems, but the the writing on it I think is really tight. The visual gags in this film are amazing. This is for me. Now, I will say I've seen National Lampoon's Vacation, I've seen European Vacation, Christmas Vacation, and Vegas Vacation. Those are the only four of the vacation I've seen. I think they did another one, and then I know there was like a Cousin Eddie spinoff vacation one that we're not going to talk about. But I will say that I think for me the Chevy Chase role of Clark W. Griswold in Christmas Vacation versus the National Lampoon's Vacation, that's a real tough one for me to decide between because he plays that character perfect in both of those movies. Um, Overall, I'd say that for me, this is like borderline A minus A. Like, it's not perfect, but it is so good that I'm never not going to watch it. If I turn on the television or if I'm in a store somewhere and Christmas Vacation is playing, I will stop in front of the TV for way longer than I should and just
Yeah.
start laughing or giggling in front of other people. And I don't care because I do love it. It's not perfect, but to me, it is. So if I'm being objective, A minus to A, right in there. But if I'm just talking just me personally, I like
Yeah.
that's A plus.
It's
It's A
perfect
plus.
for you. How am I supposed to rate it for
uh,
someone
uh,
else?
Well, you got to be a little bit critical, a
You're
little
trying to
bit
have a
objective.
dissenting opinion too.
Uh,
Give some perspective for those that don't love it as
sure,
much as I
sure.
get it.
I'm not going to be in the thing. I'm not going to throw it under the bus. I'm like, this is horrible. No, because
Right,
I
right,
find
right.
it extremely entertaining.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
it's all the little things. Look, Russ, no lines. I mean, just like
Yeah.
it's super. Like, and that's the other thing too. It's super quotable. And for me, that's always been a huge plus in comedy movies. If it's something that I'm going to be quoting decades later,
Right.
that's top tier comedy. Like
Yep.
I can't quote you, movie lines out of, dude, where's my car? Like it's just,
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
But
Yeah.
I can quote you a lot, and I mean a lot of National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. So
Yes, sir.
that's where I'm going to rate it. Here's the thing though. I know, Matt, you and I love this, but not everyone does. So the question I'm going to ask you and I, and we're going to come up with an answer now, and then this will be our question, the Super Friends, is what is the Christmas movie you hate? We asked, what do you love?
Oh, that's easy.
What is the Christmas movie you hate, that you do not want to watch, that you cannot stand?
White Christmas. I already said it. I hate that movie. I watched it. I've seen it once, and I'll never watch it again. I hate it. That was
Yeah.
easy.
Yeah. I I don't care for it. Unfortunately, I've seen it way too many times. Um for me, it's the Polar Express.
Yeah. Okay.
I
I respect your opinion.
I hate that movie, and
Yeah.
my wife always wants to like turn it on and like play it for the
Oh.
kids, and I'm just like, ugh, no, like just get that junk out of here. Like I'll watch White Christmas instead. Um, I just I don't care for it. I don't have the
Get it.
nostalgia, the story.
Right.
So anyway, so Super Friends, I know that this is going to be dropping on Christmas Eve. I know that some of you are going to be listening on Christmas Eve. Some of you may listen on Christmas Day when you're driving to go see family somewhere else, or most of you will probably listen to it following Christmas. But the question we want to ask is, what is a Christmas movie that you actually hate? And if you start coming with a whole bunch of answers from the Hallmark Channel, I totally respect that. And I will allow those because they're a lot of
You need
hot
specific
garbage.
titles, though.
Yes.
You have to have seen it.
Yes.
You
You
have
you
to
can't just
know
say
it.
a blanket statement, anything on the
Right.
Hallmark
Because
Channel.
if you haven't seen Holiday in Handcuffs, I don't want to hear crap about it because it's an excellent movie with Melissa Joan Hart, Mario Lopez. Go watch it.
Melissa Joan Hart, I was like Candice Bure, anything, like I could start, picking that. Anyway, that'll be our question of the week, and we will read those answers next week. You can get us at all the normal places for your answers. Fordofnerd@gmail.com is our email address. Facebook, it's facebook.com/FordofNerd. Twitter is @FordofNerd. Instagram is FordofNerd. Discord, on the Fortress of Nerditude Discord, you can put your answers there. We will read those answers next week. Matt, this has been a fun one. I'm glad we got to actually talk about this movie, and we had a quote unquote excuse to watch this movie. Not that we needed it,
Right.
but I'm glad that we did. Once again, Merry Christmas, Matt.
Merry Christmas.
And Merry Christmas to all of you super friends out there, wherever you may be. And may the Force be with you.